I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Savor every last drop of summer with Starbucks. From bold refreshers to rich cold brews, the sunniest season only gets better with a handcrafted iced beverage in your hand. Available for a limited time. Your summer favorites are ready at Starbucks.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits. From sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome and happy Friday. We got a great show planned for you tonight, including a legend of hold music jazz. That's right, the unlikely hero that you've heard on the phone. You had no idea who she is, but when you've been on hold with a major corporation, her track is played. And guess what? She didn't know her track was bought for that purpose. That in 10 minutes time. Then later in the program, things are gonna get sexy and salacious as we figure out ways to cope with the summer heat and have sex. I, for one, when it's too hot, not interested. All right, let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Most shows deliver serious news that you can use. As a point of differentiation, we give you news you can't use. The Last Show, with David Cooper and special foreign correspondent, Tony Five.
Jingles first, content second here on The Last.
As we say, David, I'm special, I'm foreign, and I'm a correspondent, my friend.
You certainly are special, and you are foreign.
Yep.
I mean, you correspond with me, which makes you...
Special foreign correspondent. Exactly. David, name's in the title, my friend. This is what we say in the UK.
And in a continuing series of bird news, because we really have cornered the market on bird-related global news, Tony Five is here to give us an update in the sky, maybe.
If you're anywhere based on planet Earth and you need bird-related news, be it new, be it old, be it current, be it historical, my friend, you come to me. There's nowhere else.
Be it new, be it old, be it current, be it bold, is what you should have said.
Well, I can't rhyme like that, David. I haven't got your skills, my friend. So I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I can't do it. So my friend, because of the wonder of social media, people have recently been reminded of something. Do you know what they've been reminded of, David?
No.
A time in 2019, which is about 8 years ago, where birds had small hats, pigeons basically, had small hats glued to them in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Like as a kind of animal attack that was also very cute?
Disclaimer, it's very cruel, and it was cruel. Obviously, no one knew whether the pigeons liked the hats. Maybe they preferred a different head adornment, baseball caps, but they were wearing little top hats, cowboy hats, sorry. They were wearing cowboy hats. And they were everywhere. Apparently, somebody had managed to hold down a pigeon, stick a cowboy hat to them, and they were wandering around. People thought it was a stunt. No one actually got caught or found out. I don't know whether it killed any of them or not. But yeah, I was reading about it, and it came up again. And they spoke to the like a big society, and a director there was saying, this is not cool. So I don't know whether they've had to put a clause in the state Nevada law about not putting cowboy hats and other hat apparel upon the pigeon. But yeah, that's my news, David.
First of all, it's got to be animal cruelty, but I wonder what crimes that we've never fathomed of that are cruel to animals, people, property, or otherwise, that for whatever reason, they're so obscure, so weird, they're not on the books because lawmakers just haven't thought of them. I don't think this would count as one of those. I do think you could get people on animal cruelty. I am watching a video of someone driving by a hat with a pigeon in Las Vegas, and they respond to the pigeon.
Did you say a hat with a pigeon, or should it be a pigeon with a hat, my friend?
Did I say a hat with a pigeon on it?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, you said a hat with a pigeon, like hats always should come with a pigeon rather than a pigeon with a hat like they shouldn't? I can't work it out. I'm confused, David, but I don't know why I'm confused.
Anyway, in the video, someone drives by the bird and says, "Howdy, partner," which I think is a good way to respond.
Can I tell you something quite weird? So a member of the public, who obviously made a comment, said, why couldn't they just find a culprit? Why couldn't they just search for most mini cowboy hats purchased in the last 6 months?
Yeah.
Now, what a way to catch somebody.
Go to their Amazon purchase history.
Yeah, Amazon purchase history. Did you buy many mini cowboy hats? Why? And then having to can you imagine being pulled out of your work by ICE agents and having to justify your purchase of mini cowboy hats?
I could not imagine that. No.
Do you think you'd be the prison bully if you got caught and sent to hard time doing that?
Yeah, it's like, what are you in for? Murder, stabbing. Well, I glued a bunch of hats to pigeons. I feel like you'd be the king of the prison. You'd be the prison comedian.
Yeah, I think you would be, or the prison biatch.
Okay, Tony, I've got some news you can't use.
David, we've always got news and we never use it. Carry on, my friend.
I saw a Netflix series last night that was... I call them algorithm shows, allegedly. I don't want to get sued by Netflix for slander, but it shows that like they studied what people click, how they watch. They ran machine learning AI on what can create the most salacious, like clickbaity show that everyone will love, but requires the least amount of effort. And I call them algorithm shows, and they're really just meant to get you to click on them to consume the content. And there was one that I saw that was called Trainwreck Poop Cruise. And I don't know if in 2013 this made headlines in the UK, but there was a Carnival cruise ship, Carnival Triumph, that had a small fire in the engine room, actually somewhat of a big fire in the engine room. Mm-hmm. They put it out, but it fried or it shorted, or for whatever reason, it cut the electrical on the ship, which meant no plumbing. And they were stuck in the middle of the Gulf of... I can't even say the name of the body of the water without being political. The body of water that divides Mexico and the United States, that is a gulf.
What's it called now? Is it called the Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico? What is it now?
I think most countries are calling it the Gulf of Mexico. Certain entities in the U.S., including the government, are calling it the Gulf of America.
Isn't that strange? Just to stop you there. Isn't that strange that people are arguing about the name of a body of water? What have we become as the human race?
I said it last night. I forget the word. Microcosm. See, don't I sound smart? Anyway, this cruise gets stuck and people are like, there's no electricity, there's no fridges, so the food starts spoiling and the toilets don't work. And it's a documentary about what happened. And they interview people. They're called talking heads when they have the people on the cruise. And one of them is like a father-daughter couple that were going on this like big final cruise before she got engaged or just after she got engaged. And they were like Southern. And it was like interviewing them. And the father was like crying. He's like, you just want to protect your daughter. And,
David, I'll be honest with you. We need him on the show.
Yeah, actually, we should get that couple on.
David, I mean, I don't know why you've wasted this opportunity to talk about it. We need that Southern man who went on a poop cruise on the show. Email our producer, baby.
Anyway, the toilets are overflowing and it's like a documentary and it goes from like deeply serious, like these people are complaining about their problems, to like the kitchen staff talking. And the one kitchen staff guy, he's got like a little bit of a lisp. He is so funny. He's one of the most funny people I've ever seen on television. And he knows he's funny.
Okay.
But yeah, it's this whiplash between like serious event that happened in the middle of the Gulf that people were stranded and unable to use the toilet. And then like these hilarious, I don't know, like it was really well done for what I'll call an algorithm show. Allegedly, I don't want to be sued.
Well, I know what I'm doing this weekend, my friend.
It was just, I don't know. And I watched it I was in Canada briefly the other day and I watched it with my brother's husband.
Yep.
And he's very funny. And he was like, oh my gosh. It's undescribable. I just would recommend it to everybody. And I am not sponsored or paid by Netflix, but Netflix, if you do want to make me a spokesperson, I'm up for the job.
Yeah, and I would quite happily be a spokesperson for Carnival Cruises Poop Cruise.
Anyway, the show's called Trainwreck Poop Cruise. The show's called Trainwreck Poop Cruise. I'm here with Tony Five. This has been severely news that you can't use. Amongst all the news, we are the most can't usable of it. Tony, thank you.
Remember, David, there is a hat with a pigeon somewhere.
After the break, it's rare that you get to interview your heroes, but that's one of the perks of this job. The other day, I was on hold with a faceless corporation, frustrated, getting the runaround, and a jazzy number played. And I thought to myself, I recognize this song. I Googled it, and its author is a retired 76-year-old social worker who didn't know she became the hold music jazz for many corporations like Amazon, Delta, even the British prison system. So what is this song, and why was its author so surprised when she heard it while she was on hold? That in a few moments. I'm so excited. Side note, hold music jazz is maybe my favorite genre.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Roll baller, Alonzo ball for Buzzballs. Ready to go cocktails. Take 12.
Buzzballs just dropped their biggest blue balls.
Script says Biggie's blue balls, Lonzo. Take 13.
Blue balls just dropped their biggest buzzballs.
Let's try a vocal exercise.
Buzzballs, biggies, blue balls, buzzballs, biggies, blue balls.
Big balls just dropped. Get blue balls this season with Buzzballs.
Please drink responsibly. Buzzballs available in spirit, wine, and malt. 15% alcohol by volume. Buzzballs LLC, Carrollton, Texas.
The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
She is a 76-year-old former social worker who accidentally became the reigning monarch of hold music. You've probably heard her jazzy tune, My Time to Fly, while stuck on hold with a faceless major corporation on the phone. You just didn't know it. It sounds something like this. It's a jazzy number. I am here with Harriet Goldberg, a Boston-based songwriter. Harriet, what a pleasure it is to talk to you and discuss your song, your career, and you.
Thank you, David, and what a pleasure it is to be here.
You might be the most heard, most popular musician in the world that nobody knows about. How does it feel to take this title? I'm just going to give it to you whether it's true or not.
Right. It feels weird and kind of cool. I mean, like fun, it's something you would never have, one would never have expected. I mean, where did this come from? And it just kind of took off. So it's sort of fun. And also I get a lot of emails from people who've heard the song, they're going crazy as we all do on hold. And if they're on for longer than a certain amount of time, they Shazam the song, they find out who it is. And if they're still on, or even later, they might email me and say, they're usually the ones that like it. If they don't like it, they tend probably to whatever, put down the sound. And then they email me and say, thank you. This is better hold music than most of the stuff we have to listen to, and that kind of thing.
It's fun, it's quirky, it's jazzy. I was on hold with a faceless corporation. I tried to get a points airline flight. The points didn't transfer. I wasn't sure if the ticket was booked. You know the story.
Right.
The song comes on, and I'm thinking, this is a jazz standard, and it's fun. It's kind of a quirky, silly tune to me. It made me smile. It made me chuckle. And of course, I Shazam it.
Right.
And then I'm like, this must be a jazz standard. And it wasn't. And then I Google the song. I play the song. I find a profile on you. That's the short version of how you ended up on the show.
Right.
Let's talk about what led you to compose the song. You weren't always, I suppose you were always a musician, but you weren't always a professional musician. You were a social worker for a long time.
Right, a long time. For a while. And way back when. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then I started writing during that time because I had more time and more space to do it.
So tell me about the song. Where would the inspiration come from? Did you record it in the studio? Let's hear about the song before we find out how you maybe accidentally sold it to these corporations.
Sure. Yes. So most of the songs I write, probably all of the songs, are jazz vocals. They all have vocal. They all have, words. And so this one was originally, my daughter was either going off to graduating college or graduating high school. I think graduating high school. I can't quite remember. And so, if you listen to the song with vocals, you'll hear it's, like, I'm leaving the nest, fleeing the coop, riding a crest, I'm out of the loop, taking off, moving on, saying goodbye. It's my time to fly. That's why I don't sing the song, David.
No, I've got a grin from ear to ear. I love the tune, I gotta say.
Well, there's a wonderful singer named Dane Van Adder, and he sings the version with lyrics. And so anyway, so that was sort of the inspiration of it. I think it was in my head. Hey, she's taken off. Isn't this cool? And, the way I write, I just sort of play a few chords and melody might come or not. And then in this one, the words probably, I can't really remember because it was so long ago, the words probably came pretty quickly because that was in my mind.
So that happens. You record an instrumental take of it.
Well, I don't even do the recording. I was playing it on the piano.
Sure.
And writing it out.
Sure. Oh, I mean, so you write it out. At what point does the instrumental version get recorded?
After I have about like 10 or 12 or whatever number of songs that I think are good, I go into studio with really, really good musicians and really wonderful singers and record them. Because I don't sing. I play the piano, but I'm not, I don't play out really. I play in my house, I play with, little groups in my house or whatever, or locally, but I don't play out anywhere. So I get wonderful musicians and wonderful singers, and we'd record in the studio.
Okay, you record in the studio, you do an instrumental version of it. At what point do you hear this song while on hold for the first time? Well, so there's sort of a backstory, because what happened was, so the saxophonist is a guy named Billy Novick, who's wonderful. He's an old friend and a great musician. So all of a sudden I get a call from him. He said, Harriet, I was on hold with Capital One and I heard this song. I kind of liked it. The saxophone sounded pretty good and I wasn't quite sure. It sounded familiar. So I think he then eventually realized, I don't know if he Shazammed it or just realized it was him playing. And so he called me. Wait, the musician that played on the song didn't remember playing on it?
He may have or may not have. He plays, he does a lot of stuff. And so, and also, so he eventually remembered, because I don't know if he really Shazammed it or not, but he did remember what it was, and he said he realized it's sort of how he marks out playing, doing solos and stuff. But what was weird was like, and we were both concerned, where'd they get this song from? Are they paying me? What's happening with it and all that? So I had to check this out. But like 2 weeks later, an old friend of mine called me. She says, Harriet, I just heard your song on, I think it was the New York Times. And so it was a couple people that knew me. And, like not many people knew this song in the day. I'm not like, a famous person.
You are to me, Harriet.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then I, of course, called my or emailed my publisher. And in fact, like a year or two before, they had sold it, I guess it's not exactly sell it, sold it or given, permission to Amazon.
Granted a license, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. For Amazon to use it as hold music or to sell it to other people to use it as hold music.
And what did they pay you for that license?
Well, they paid me $1,000 up front, but...
Which as a musician seems high, but then once you've given it away for use, maybe not so much.
Right, exactly. And what was weird was usually the publisher, it rarely works this way. Stuff that's on TV, of course, I get paid up front and then you get royalties, every time it's played. If it's on TV, you get royalties each time it's played, no matter what country, all that kind of stuff. But this was a different thing. It's called a buyout, and they paid it just up front. And end of story.
On the one hand, it feels exploitative, but on the other hand, had it not have had that structure, they wouldn't have bought it in the first place. They were looking for a whole tune with that kind of license.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and also, absolutely. And, the publisher makes money too when these things happen. So just what you said is true. It probably wouldn't have happened if she had not done a buyout.
What was it like to hear? So you're talking about your friends hearing it, telling you about it, checking in with your publisher, making sure that this is all legit.
Right.
But there must have been a first time you heard your own song while on hold.
Yeah, I think, actually, when I was really on hold, like after Billy had called me, I called up Capital One just to try it out. But when I was literally on hold, probably with the New York Times, you get annoyed, you're going to be on hold, and then all of a sudden my song comes on. So I start smiling, laughing, and and that really happened. A second time that happened with an airline. And, you really get annoyed when it's going to be an airline putting you on because you're going to be there for hours.
You must be in the unique position where a corporation mistreating you awfully, putting you on hold, giving you the runaround, hanging up on you, but then you've got such joy to hear your own music.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes.
That's such a gift. I am here with musician Harriet Goldberg, who's a songwriter based out of Boston. We are talking about how her song that she composed became one of the most famous hold music tracks. When we come back, we'll ask the deep questions, like what's it like to switch to a career in music in your late 40s?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Pluto TV. Summer of cinema is here, and Pluto TV is exploding with thousands of free movies. Feel the explosive action all summer long with movies like Gladiator, Beverly Hills Cop, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Good Burger, Stealth, Four Brothers, and Star Trek. Bring the action with you and stream for free on all your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never. Stream now at pluto.tv.
And that music playing is perhaps the best and only example of my favorite genre, hold music jazz. And I'm here with its 76-year-old composer, a Boston-based songwriter, Harriet Goldberg. And this track, titled My Time to Fly, is legendary in hold music jazz circles, of which I'm not sure there's any. Harriet, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We're talking about how you went from being a songwriter to the unlikely hero of hold music. Your track, unbeknownst to you, became used across huge corporations like Delta, New York Times, Amazon. The list is pretty expansive of corporations that use this hold music. Any that come to mind other than the ones I've mentioned?
Let's see. I tried to make a list because, I think it was used or still is used on Aer Lingus, Motorola, NASDAQ, TurboTax.
NASDAQ? I could be buying shares of like some corporation and...
Now, David, some of these things, like I might have gotten called like a couple years ago, hey, it's on NASDAQ. Actually, that was my singer that called me, Dane Van Adder, who does the vocal. He said, Harriet, I'm on hold. I can't talk right long. I'm at work, but, NASDAQ's using it. So they may or may not still be using it, but they were 2 years ago.
Now, you asked me at the commercial break something. I was talking about having a previous career in the technology industry and switching into media and radio in my mid-30s. And you asked me, do I love it? Or it's your passion?
Right.
And I thought, this is something I want to talk about on the show because you weren't always a professional musician. You didn't start pursuing music seriously until what, your late 40s?
Yeah, well, I always played music.
Sure.
I always play. When I was a kid, I did classical. And when I got, in my 20s, I studied jazz because I got more into that type, those singers, those musicians, all that stuff. And so, so I always loved it. I don't think I was driven enough or disciplined enough to be a musician who plays out, but somehow writing fit who I am better.
But at one point you decide to transition to take this more professionally seriously.
Right. Well, basically a lot of it had to do with my saxophone player, Billy Novick, who when, my first two CDs, I just have vocal and instrument. I don't have any just instrumental versions. But he said, TV often uses instrumental versions of things. And so it might make sense to also do instrumental versions only. So that was how I kind of got to that place. And again, some of the TV shows, some have used the vocal versions, some have used just instrumentals. it's been a little bit of both.
That shift from being a really enthusiastic hobbyist, you're not doing it professionally, something shifts, right? Like people ask me if I love my job, and I do,
Right.
but there's sort of the amateur's joy of getting to engage with your creative passion whenever you want. It's all fun. If it's not fun, you don't do it.
Right.
To taking it very seriously and doing it every day, whether you want to, like, whether you're feeling good, whether you're feeling creative or not, you got to
Right.
sort of put that output. And I think for me, that's the big shift between the kind of hobbyist to professional.
Right.
What about for you?
Yeah. And I think I'm kind of on the line with that, David, because I've had, some really good stuff, really good success with my music. But, it's very hard to make a living as a songwriter.
Oh, I thought you were going to say radio personality.
Well, I wonder. So, I feel like kind of, you're always hoping. I mean, when I started, my biggest hope, of course, was that all these, wonderful singers would sing my songs. And I've had some wonderful singers sing my songs, but, Barbara, Streisand didn't take it. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. What do some of the people who reach out, who have heard your hold music, identified you using Shazam and really loved the track and it brightened their day when they were dealing with corporate nonsense?
Yeah. So there are several, but there are lots. Some people reach out to me because they are amateur saxophone players and they say, where can I find a lead sheet for this? And I just send it to them.
That's the sheet music for those who don't know what a lead sheet is. Yeah.
Sheet music. Yeah. So I just send them the sheet, they can download the sheet music. And so the best one, the one I loved the most was a guy who was in tech and he emailed me. He said, I'm in New York. I think he writes programs or different kind of programming stuff. He said, and sometimes I'm walking around and I'm looking at all these people and I think to myself, most of these people have been using my program.
Yeah.
And he said, I wonder if you feel the same way about your song, that most of these people have heard your song. And it was just a really sweet email. And the whole concept of it was, wow.
That's touching.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I remember one time I was doing radio at a festival in the desert called Burning Man.
Sure, yeah.
And I did a 2-hour radio program where I played the same song every 5 minutes as a joke. And my girlfriend was in the studio arguing with me, begging me to stop. It was like a real, like, silly, surreal, it just never ended. And the more I played it, the more people were laughing. After the event, I get this email from someone saying I couldn't make it to the festival, but I was streaming the radio station online. I was in the hospital getting cancer treatment, and I put your program on.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in a huge fight with my wife over it because she kept telling me to turn it off, and I wouldn't. And he said the nurse had to get involved and mediate our argument over your show. And he said, thank you so much for putting it out. It was one of the most hilarious and wonderful things that happened to me during my cancer treatment. And I loved it. I mean, obviously the fight with his wife was a joke, but
Right.
it's funny how you do these things just for fun and they can really touch people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what's wonderful about it. And that's what, despite the not getting paid per, per song that's heard, and especially at my age too, it's kind of a wonderful thing. I love these emails, and I love just that it's giving people joy. Like what you said, it's just giving people joy. Or, I'm sure a lot of people are not real happy, but, hopefully they won't contact me because, it's not my fault they're on hold.
I am here with Harriet Goldberg, who's a Boston-based songwriter. Her hold music song, My Time to Fly, you've definitely heard. Harriet, at the beginning, I was just talking to you and I said, are there any examples of corporations that use your song? I'm glad you didn't mention one because I have one that I think is so funny. It's so funny to me. It may be a little awful, but so funny to me. The prison system in the United Kingdom. There are prisons in England that when you call to talk to your loved one who's locked up and you get put on hold while they fetch the prisoner or who knows what, your music plays. And just the thought that you're somehow involved in the prison system is so funny to me. What do you make of some of these odd uses of your song?
I have no idea. I find it really weird. I know some people, especially during COVID, one of my friends said he called the unemployment office. He got it was for Massachusetts unemployment office. I mean, they're in like weird places that you would never expect. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I think people call Amazon. They say, I need on hold music. And I don't know how they choose it. Do you know what I mean? If they choose it or Amazon said, here, take this. I mean, I just don't know.
I have no idea either. It's a pretty opaque how these corporations choose their
exactly.
It's subcontractor after subcontractor.
Exactly.
You've said the notoriety that you have is sweet, but what does the song and its legacy really mean to you?
Well, at this point, I think it does mean kind of touching other people, in a way. I mean, and so, I mean, again, the original version was for my daughter, and just kind of my time to fly, just going out into the world, whatever. But now the legacy is just, I don't even know. That's an interesting question, David. I think it's just like fun. Well, some of it's fun and funny.
Yeah.
People, like if someone says, oh, if I say I'm a songwriter, oh, have I ever heard any of your music? Well, maybe.
You definitely have.
Yeah. So some of it's just like a funny thing, it's like, and some of it is, it's kind of nice to have done something that, the New York Times, Sal Cataldi wrote the New York Times article. And my dad read the New York Times like religiously every day. He's no longer alive, of course, but he read it like every day of his life, like cover to cover. Like he would have been so, just the fact that it was in the Times was like meant something more emotional to me, not just because,
Well, Harriet Goldberg, you can check out a profile on the song and her in the New York Times. She's a Boston-based songwriter. Her song, My Time to Fly, you've definitely heard while on hold with major corporations. Harriet, I'm so glad you wrote the song. I'm glad you agreed to this interview, and I'm glad we met. What a joy it was having you on the show.
A delightful, David. Thank you so much. I won't tell you how nervous I was beforehand.
I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. After the break, a first look at amazing new photographs from space from a new telescope.
Put us in a box. Go ahead. That just gives us something to break out of. Because the next generation 2025 GMC Terrain Elevation is raising the standard of what comes standard. As far as expectations go, why meet them when you can shatter them? What we choose to challenge, we challenge completely. We are professional grade. Visit gmc.com to learn more.
Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Review videos. That's when someone online looks at something and reviews it. And that's what we're going to do in audio format with Dr. Jesse Rogerson, an astrophysicist at York University who co-authored the book Daydreaming in the Solar System. That's available wherever books are sold. We are taking a first look at Vera Rubin. And I'm not talking about the wonderful deceased astronomer. We're talking about the telescope named in her honor. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is amazing stuff. Indescribable. We will do our best to describe it. This telescope was built, and I remember when James Webb, I'm not even sure James Webb, these pictures were like that scientific. I think they were more like for the public. I remember the first look of the images from that and being wowed. Walk me through what this telescope is and what the images that we're starting to see are.
Yeah, when we do these, when astronomers finish building a telescope, they put out like a first look image or a bunch of images, and the goal here is exactly what you said, to like show the public, like, look how awesome this is. And they do clean them up in a way that an astronomer would normally not look at them. It doesn't mean that they're not that they've reduced the scientific value. It's just like, for example, when an astronomer is looking at an image, we don't care if it's the beautiful colors. We just want to know how bright or dim something is.
And a lot of the colors aren't quote unquote accurate because they're shifted into maybe the radio spectrum or the microwave spectrum.
Right, exactly.
To the naked eye, these things you can't see because as objects are moving far away from us, the light gets longer and invisible or shorter. I don't know. Red shifting, blue shifting, green shifting, two shifting.
Yeah, so the goal here is to show off, basically. And like there's like this telescope, the Vera Rubin telescope, has been built over the last 10 years. It's in Chile, the northern part of Chile, on top of a big mountain. Probably the second best observing site on the planet, next to Mauna Kea in Hawaii. It's an 8.4 meter optical telescope, and this telescope has the capability of taking pictures of large sections of the sky, wide field view. But also very, very deep at the same time. Normally you kind of get one or the other. Like the James Webb Space Telescope is really good at deep images, but not really good at wide field. So this one is wide field and deep at the same time, so much so that it can take, its goal is to take an entire snapshot of the entire visible sky, which is about half the sky to any one place on the planet, a whole snapshot every 3 nights for the next 10 years, okay, in much more depth than most telescopes can do. So you're re-imaging your entire sky every 3 nights for 10 whole years. That is an ambitious project. It's a really, really one of the best cameras ever made. And they just released these 4 groups of data to show off how good they are.
Well, how good are they? What exactly?
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's take a step back. When we do a wide field, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
Are we looking for things like supernovas or comets or asteroids? Like, what are we? I know with James Webb, we're looking deep into the early universe. With this, what kind of objects are we looking for in our celestial skies?
Yeah, it's the same objects. You're just you're looking at them for different reasons. So like if you want depth, like if you want to see like just as you were talking about with the expanding universe, if you want to get to the very early universe, you need depth, and you need depth on a level that this telescope can't. So JWST can like get back to the like early universe. So you do that on a really small field of view, but you go really, really deep and you look at the early galaxies, the early stars, that kind of stuff.
You're just gonna roll your eyes because this is like basic things for an astronomer, but some people don't know this. The further you look, the earlier in our universe's history you're looking at, because light takes a certain amount of time to travel to us. So as we get to the far corners of the universe, we're also getting to the far corners of time, like the earliest moments after the Big Bang.
Isn't that a little bit mind-bending? Oh my gosh. I was just talking to my wife about this, and she still like looks at me every time I talk her about this like light travel time, and like she looks at me like, you're crazy. And because it does sound insane, right? Where it takes time for light to travel. That's a simple fact. But you and I don't notice this on our times or on our like physical scales because the distances are so small, it seems instantaneous. But when you get to the size of the universe, you have such large distances that it takes an appreciable amount of time, millions of years, billions of years before the light gets to us. You're literally looking at when the light was left the object billions of years ago. You're looking back in time. It's wild.
All right, nerdy stuff aside, the Vera Rubin telescope, what are some of these images that have been released?
Okay, so the first one, they have this cosmic treasure trove image where I encourage everybody to Google it, Vera Rubin first look images, and just pour over the first image. You can zoom in really far. You can zoom out to see how big it is. It's insane. But I want to talk about there's one that they did about asteroids. So I said that they're going to re-image the sky every night, or every 3 nights, sorry. So a fresh image of your entire sky every 3 nights. The reason that's so important is because we can look for things that change on short time scales every 3 nights and on long time scales as you build up your data set over 10 years. They released this first look image of all the asteroids they found in like 10 hours. And it's like thousands. I was watching the video and they're like, see this section of the sky? And they're like, here's all the asteroids we found in one night. Like brand new asteroids in our solar system. No one had ever seen them before. And they're just like, look, we found thousands.
I've seen this movie with Bruce Willis, Jesse. I'm starting to get worried.
That's exactly what we need. We need the data so that we can go send the oil rig people to these. We need Bruce Willis up in the sky saving our butts, but you can't do that unless you find the asteroids. Right?
Were you surprised by the sheer number of new asteroid, comets, objects that were discovered?
Literally, my jaw dropped. I was sitting on the couch and I was like, okay, let me check out these cool new images. And they started showing, I was expecting like a few asteroids to fly through the field of view. No, it was like hundreds of them just flying through the field of view in a single night over 2 or 3 nights. They had thousands of them. I was just jaw dropped. We're gonna, as much as the whole universe is going to be affected here, this telescope, and they even quote it themselves in their like how they describe the telescope. It is the best solar system telescope we have, because the way you discover things in the solar system is by take pictures of the sky and then see if anything moved X amount of days later. That's how you find things that move, like planets and asteroids and so on. And it can do thousands of asteroids in just a short amount of time. Is it going to find new planets, new dwarf planets? Like, what is our solar system going to look like 5 years after this telescope comes online, like it's going to be completely different. It's going to be absolutely incredible to reshape our solar system understanding.
I got to derail. I know we don't have a ton of time, but there's this planet that people think exists out in the Kuiper Belt. It's this dark planet, super far away from the sun, quite a bit bigger than Earth, smaller than Jupiter, but big, and they call it Planet X or Planet 9 or whatever they call it. Do you think Vera Rubin, the new telescope, the observatory, could discover this thing?
That is a really good question, and I wish that I knew the answer to that, because all I would need to do to look up the answer to that is to see if the expected location of that object that is predicted is in the field of view, meaning in the section of the sky that the Vera Rubin can see. And I actually have not looked that up, and that makes me sad that I haven't done that. That is a really good question, because presumably you would be able to, if it was in the field of view, so if it was in the southern half of the sky that Vera Rubin looks at, then yes, 100% it'd be able to find it.
Are you on the camp that says this thing exists? But there's a lot of really reputable astronomers that say it do. There's reputable ones that say it's all BS. What do you think?
So I read some of the stuff about this, and it does seem like they have a good argument to make that it exists out there. But I am never going to be like, yes, it exists, until I see the track image of it moving on like over a period of a couple years.
Any other amazing photos that you want to tell us about quickly?
Well, the Trifid Nebula. I mean, if you like looking at beautiful images of the universe, they have this Lagoon Trifid Nebula shot that you can it's so pink and it's so purple and white, and there's stars, and it's incredibly dense nebula. Go take a look at that one. It's beautiful.
Check out Dr. Jesse Rogerson's book, Daydreaming in the Solar System. That's available wherever books are sold. He's an astrophysicist at York University. Jesse, thank you for talking to me.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
After the break, there's been heat waves in North America and in the UK, and we will give you tips. Maybe sit your kids out for this one. For making love during a heat wave. What? It's going to be salacious.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
I am joined by foreign correspondent Tony Five, who is in the UK and currently experiencing a heat wave. Tony, welcome in.
David, it's hot here, baby. It's hot, David. It's too hot for Tony Five.
It's too hot for Tony, and it's too hot for sex. So how would you beat the heat wave? Because I'm here in New York. It was just too hot for sex. All over North America, there's been heat waves. So we are joined by marketing communications manager at sexual wellness and sex toy company LELO. Her name is Amandine Ranson, to discuss beating the heat wave while beating, well, I'm not going to say that. Amandine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, David and Tony.
I love that your company put out suggestions because, like, honestly, when it's 1,000 degrees outside, no one wants to have sex, right?
No, you don't even want to touch yourself.
David, Amandine, speak for yourself, people. Speak for yourself.
Well, Tony, you've got to do it smartly. Otherwise, you're going to lose too much liquid water.
David.
Yeah, okay.
David, we've already gone through this, David. You know me, David. I could be sat on the sun and I'd still be doing stuff.
All right. Well, we're learning more about you that we don't want to know. Amandine, what are some tips that you would recommend for people that want to get busy, but they're just finding the heat's a little bit too oppressive?
Oh yeah, I mean there are like plenty. I mean things that could, that comes to your mind could be first of all the timing of the day. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it, if it's like between the hottest, time of the day, like between like 12 and let's say 6 p.m. Sometimes it's like too hot. So prefer, doing it in the morning when you wake up and you're feeling fresh, or at night, or during, the middle of the night as well, because that's when the coolest temperature are for sure.
Very similar, like walking my dog.
Yes, but avoid, doing this in front of your neighbors.
Okay.
All right, next tip.
Okay, let's say the location. If you're doing it inside, okay, I'm saying inside, Tony, you heard me right.
Thank you. Amandine, we've just met, but you know me so well. It's really sad. Carry on.
Okay, let's go on. Then we say we do it inside. If you're living in a flat or in the house and you don't have, unfortunately, the air conditioning, as you don't in the UK, I know that. Then you just prefer something where you can do it on the floor, with like, if you, for example, go into the bathroom, maybe in the UK, you still have, unfortunately, carpets. I'm afraid of that.
We have linoleum, so, well, not my one.
Linoleum good, carpets means rug burn.
Right.
Exactly. Then prefers the tiles, like if you have wooden floor in, in the rest of the flat or the house, then prefer the tiles. The tiles are really cooling you down, guys. It's it can be very fun, a little bit hard.
Yes.
I'm just talking about like the
of course, yeah.
The floor, right?
The floor, yeah. No, we're talking about the floor, the hard floor.
The hard floor.
But I have a health and safety issue here. Amandine, you've mentioned tiles, but tiles combined with fluid makes it a very slippery surface.
It's true. But then, okay, we were talking about the bathroom, then go into the shower, and, it can be safe. I mean, in the bathtub.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or having a cold shower. I just thought of that one.
And a cold shower as well, yeah.
Although the mechanics when there's water, I don't actually think work as well as...
But David, have you not heard, Amandine, cold water and certain members of the parts of the body, they don't interact well.
True.
For example, mine likes to go and hide.
It's true. Then go first in the shower and then like put the water after. But it's true though, with the water, you have to be very mindful because you need still to bring the lube, because the water would just, it will interact with your genitals and sometimes it would stop from natural lubrication. So still bring like a natural like lubricant with you as well. Just another tip here.
I find shower sex, like the movies portray it to be so amazing, but when you try it, you're like, this isn't working. What about positions? Are there any positions of lovemaking that favor cooling off versus staying really hot and sweaty?
Yeah, the one that you're very not close,
Like in the different room.
Doggy style, for example.
Or in front of there's obviously various Kama Sutra type ones. And there's one that they call in front of the air conditioner. I don't know whether you've heard that one. That's a wonderful one that I've used. And I would like to sell that to LELO as a patented version. It's my version of in the AC, you call it, That's what I like.
Yeah. I love it. And it works, I think. Absolutely.
What about, and I sometimes do this because sometimes you're just tired and you want to get excited with your partner, but you don't want to do anything too athletic. In the heat, you also don't want to do anything athletic. What about just laying next to your partner and just kind of doing your own thing, but doing your own thing together?
Yeah, like, it can be mutual masturbation, but it can also be just, without, having like penetration, if I can say so.
You can? I'm not sure if I'll have a job tomorrow, but you definitely can.
Sorry, your boss.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Amandine, your company does these sort of remote versions of sex toys, which obviously in this period you can do it remotely, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is called teledildonics. That is the type that's what the word is. Smart sex toys fall under a word that are called teledildonics, and it's my favorite word.
Oh, yeah.
David, I'm currently Googling that now, and I want to be a professor of teledildonics. And hopefully, Amandine, if you could go back to your company and see if they could sponsor me or maybe get me through college.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It can be done. Like I was just dialing in with them right now as we speak. But it's true, with our app, then we can go on the Love Bridge and you can start, being into like a secure chat room and having, whatever you want to have within our sex toys and without any physical contact. high five.
Amandine, I have a question, right? Now, this is slightly related, but not related. If you are sending those things out, so let's just say me and David have one and you have one and your friends have one, and we're all using them. Is that classed as cheating?
Okay, I think it's over. But first of all, like technically, you cannot do that with our app because it's only one. It's peer-to-peer. It's only like 2-person. I mean, I don't know how many people you will be in the room, but right now I think you're alone. I don't know.
Well, that's quite presumptuous of you, but
most sex parties Tony attends have just one person at them.
And that's what I was thinking, David. A sex party. Can you imagine the virtual sex party? Everybody has these things. Amandine, I'm giving LELO such unbelievable business advice here. I think we should be sponsored by them at least.
LELO. But, okay, so walk us through. It's like a remote sex toy, Bluetooth enabled. I give one to my girlfriend. She gives one to me.
Yes.
And we don't even need to be in the same room. We could be in different rooms with our own air conditioners.
Continent. You don't ever have to be in the same continent, David.
No, yeah, you can be like right now. You're you're in the UK. I am in France. So, I mean, again, like I'm not part of it because like it's only like 2.
It's just me and you, Tony, is what she's saying. We're on our own.
Yeah, I'm not there.
I like the way you backed out. David, did you see how awful are with women? She backed out of it, even though it's her product and she's offering it to us.
Yeah,
brilliant.
She just wants us to enjoy it ourselves, is all. So I could even be at the high seas, assuming the boat has a satellite internet.
Starlink, baby. This is what Elon's all about, Starlink.
How does it work? I apply the toy, I guess, against myself, and then my girlfriend with the phone can control it?
And she can control it, absolutely. Like she can like control the vibration, the intensity. Like we have different kind of modes, making it, she controls it, but you enjoy it. And the other way around as well, if she has one.
This is technically the ultimate way to beat the heat. We've got our bodies in separate locations, not warming each other up.
Yeah, exactly. You're sweating, but she doesn't see it. She doesn't feel you sweat.
Or smell it.
Or smell it, yeah, okay.
Or smell it, well.
Amandine, this was among the best interviews I've done. Maybe in my life. Amandine is a marketing communications manager at sexual wellness and sex toy company LELO. Amandine Ranson, thank you for joining me in Tony 5. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much. You've made my life.
It was my pleasure.
Tony, the grin on your face, dude.
I'm so sorry. I'm so happy. This is amazing.
I'm hot, man. Like this is like it's like a heat wave. It's gonna be 40 degrees, I think, on Tuesday. I'm in a like phone box. Sorry.
I'm gonna pass out.
After the break, we'll cover a scam that can give you hundreds of free flights with an airline. Except if you get caught, hard time, which is what happened to the guy who did it. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Scams that are fine. That's what we're discussing here with Caitlin Green, a media personality who co-hosts the Jan Arden Podcast. It's a little time of the week we call Pop Cultured Like Fungus, because Caitlin likes pop culture, I assume. Caitlin, welcome in.
I do like it, and it is kind of like fungus. It will spread.
It will.
It really will.
My girlfriend is currently watching Love Island USA.
Yes.
The answer is yes. Not sure what the question is, but the answer is yes.
Just tell me all about it, because I suffer.
I can't watch it. I was watching Love Island UK many years ago, and it was just so ugly. Like the contestants, a few of them ended their own lives afterwards, and it was just so ugly, the scenarios they put the contestants in. I've heard they've cleaned up the show a lot, and it's a much better for the people on it, but it's just not the reality TV for me. Yeah.
It's one of those reality TV's been around for so long that you've seen culture change as reality TV has stayed very relevant and sort of like top level viewing for a lot of people. So it is funny when you look back on older seasons, even of Housewives, what they would get away with back then now feels so dark and disordered. And it was. But it's just because that was how it was when you had cameras rolling on reality TV in like the early 2000s, it was bleak. Like think about Jersey Shore.
Yeah, or I'm even just thinking regular TV, like Cheers. I was watching old episodes of Cheers and like Jeff Danson characters just jokingly threatening to hit women as like a funny joke. And I'm like, what am I watching?
Cheers does not age well. I agree. My husband and I did the exact same thing as you. We thought maybe we'll go back and check it out because we are closet Frasier heads. We love the show Frasier. So we thought maybe we'll enjoy the jump off point for Frasier, which was Cheers. No, absolutely not. Socially unwatchable.
I don't really see Cheers as a jump off for Frasier. I see Cheers as just a prequel to Frasier is all.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Frasier's not set in the Cheers universe. Cheers is set in the Frasier universe.
Cheers would be lucky to be set in the like calm Seattle environment that Frasier is. It's very not. It is very Boston. I can say that. It seems to fulfill those stereotypes for sure. But your girlfriend is in good, very large company because the new season of Love Island USA is a massive success. Megan Thee Stallion was recently on it. My imaginary best friend Paige DeSorbo was on it. Like big celebs are on it now. And they have viewing parties at sports bars in the US where you'll have hundreds of women go to watch the episodes live because it's such a big deal.
Wow, I should tell her about that. I'm sure she would actually like to go to something like that. For those who have no idea what we're talking about, it's a show where you set up couples. It's like a bunch of beautiful, vapid people.
Yeah.
All tall, all skinny, all pretty. And they set up in these couples, but then the show makes attempts to break up the couples by introducing new people or creating scenarios where you might quote unquote cheat, even though you just got set up on a couple. And that's why it's so savage. Like, you're really playing with these people's heartstrings if they're on the show to find love, which we're not convinced they are.
I'm not. I'm always surprised when they care. When I see someone on Love Island actually like break down and cry and feel sad about someone quote unquote betraying them, I'm like, you knew what you were in for, but that's why the format works.
It's kind of a scam. Oh, I just tied it back to what we're here to talk about. The scam of the century. It's something we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, but I want to revisit it with you. Mm-hmm. It's a man who got hundreds, well, more than 100 free trips while pretending to be a flight attendant. And no, I don't think it was as simple as getting a flight attendant uniform.
No.
But I don't think it was much more complicated than that.
No, I don't think so. He basically was able somehow to book his flights on the airline carrier's website that would only be available to pilots and flight attendants. So he's not dressing up and serving people going up and down the aisle. Like this isn't like a catch me if you can type of situation. He's in the jump seat was my understanding of it.
Yes. Okay. A couple ground rules here. He did work for the airline, but in a non-flying capacity.
Yes.
So he had unfettered access to this website. Now, airlines need to get people from point A to point B. Sometimes there'll be an extra captain on the plane, just, either in first class or in economy or in a jump seat. And the reason is to get him or her to another airport to catch their flight. So there's a real system to get employees from point A to point B, but it's supposed to be for flight attendants and pilots and maybe the odd mechanic, and that's it. Not for like an administrative assistant. I don't think it was actually listed what the guy did, but it was a non-flight capacity role.
I really hope that it was someone who was antisocial and working in IT and they just figured out how to backdoor themselves onto the website. And then they had to go and make chat at the back of the plane in the flight attendant jump seat. Like, who the heck is this flight attendant?
I've often wondered, like, what constitutes fraud when ripping off companies. Like, if I somehow, and I would never advocate this because maybe it's fraud, but if I somehow got into a movie theater with a student price ticket, because let's say my university never took away my email address, which is definitely something I've never done, or I bought a laptop at a store that offered a student discount, but I wasn't a student yet, and they found out. Is that criminal fraud, or is that just, you bent the rules, you ripped off the company, maybe they'll try to send you a bill for the rest of the money? Like, at what point does scamming a company, bending their rules, but in a way that's easy to do, at what point is it criminal fraud? Because this guy did get arrested.
I would say somewhere over the 100 free flights, it probably crosses into the land of fraud.
So if I can scheme the airline with 99 flights, for example, there's something people don't know, and I'm not advocating for it. The airlines hate it, and they'll cancel your frequent flyer status. They'll cancel your trip, but it's called a hidden city fare. Let's say you're coming to New York from Toronto. You live in Toronto, I live in New York. But the connecting flight to, let's say, Des Moines, Toronto, New York, Des Moines is cheaper than direct because airlines don't charge you what it costs them to get you there. They charge you what the supply and demand prices. So maybe flights to Des Moines from Toronto connecting via New York are only worth $100, but a flight direct is $200. If you book that flight, hopefully your bags don't get checked. Maybe you only have a backpack, and then you get off the plane. It's called a hidden city fare, and I don't think it's illegal, but airlines hate it, and I shouldn't even be saying it exists because I might get sued. It exists allegedly, and I am just reporting the facts from Wikipedia.
So that's a carry-on only situation. I wouldn't dare to have a flight like booked with a hidden city plan and then check my bags. But I don't see anything wrong with it. I feel like that's a loophole. That is part of the cost of doing business. If you're in a supply and demand world, then what does it matter to you if that's another empty seat? Like, I don't really think it ultimately should make any difference to their bottom line.
You're doing the worst crime you can do in America after murder, which is taking money away from corporations that they felt they had.
That's right. So that is why I don't think this guy was the big deal either. Like, again, I may have a very unpopular opinion, and I'm sure airlines would not like to hear this, but I don't think it's such a big deal that he has to go to jail for 30 years because that's what he's facing, which I think is crazy. I mean, ban him from flying in the US. Fine. Maybe he has to spend the rest of his life on a train. That's not terrible. 30 years in prison? That's crazy behavior. When you consider the fact that airlines have robbed us all of at least that much time in our lives and rotting or trying to rebook ourselves on flights or driving from Austin to Houston in the dead of night, which I once had to do. Like, come on.
But if you securitize subprime mortgages and create a financial crisis that collapses the U.S. economy, the Congress needs to bail you out in the tune of like $1 trillion or $500 billion. Nothing bad happens to you. Yep. So if you steal money at such a great level that you collapse the banking system, that's fine. We'll bail you out. But if you scam an airline for a flight when you work there, I mean, it's a victimless crime. I suppose a little bit of extra fuel was wasted because of the weight of the passenger. But beyond that, am I on your side for committing fraud? No, but 30 years seems a bit steep.
That's what I'm saying. Don't get on the plane, go to the train, get on a boat, drive your car, whatever you have to do. I understand because apparently he also accessed like behind the scenes places where only flight attendants are supposed to go, which could conceivably be very obviously unsafe for other reasons. So yes, punishment of some kind, 30 years, not at all. And so yeah, I like him. And his name is Tyrone Alexander. And I think he's an icon for all of us now.
Oh, last I checked, they weren't releasing his name. This is an update. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's been convicted.
I see. Don't change names to protect the guilty. Yeah, I think with this one, I'm fine with like a big fine and maybe some damages on top of it. Like the airline should recoup the maximum price of every flight he took. Like, I'm not saying he should get away with it, but 30 years for like logging into he didn't even hack into the system. He did have access, even though he wasn't supposed to access. He didn't like steal any passwords. It was just left open.
Yeah. Do you have a sound effect of a gavel we can smash? Because I think we've ruled successfully on this one.
Da-dun, da-da-da-da-da. I can't get the rights to the Law and Order. Caitlin Green here on the Jan Arden Podcast. Recently, Caitlin, you had a guest on the podcast who was great. Who was it?
That guest is actually going to be tonight's guest, and it is none other than Dan Riskin, who I think you know very, very well.
Science man Dan Riskin. Check him out. Dan Riskin. Check him out on the Jan Arden Podcast with Caitlin Green. Caitlin, thank you again.
Thank you.
Up next, want to run your business well? Well, you might be able to learn something from ants. I'm not talking about your mother's sister. I'm talking about the creature.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This MLB season, FanDuel's Dinger Tuesday is back. And this year, all customers get a profit boost to bet home runs every week. So gear up to go yard all season long on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Where intellectual honesty gets witness protection from social prosecution. The Last Show with David Cooper.
If you want to run your corporation better, you might be tempted to go to the self-help section of the bookstore and grab a book with a catchy title to help you, prospective CEO, run your business. But I've got a better way, and I am joined by curator of entomology at the California Academy of Sciences, Dr. Brian Fisher, to discuss, and we will be taking our lessons of how to run your corporation from ants. Brian, welcome to the show.
Great to be back, and I look forward to helping those who are struggling with how to manage large corporations.
Which is so many of us these days, probably. But regardless, ant colonies are fascinating places, and everyone seems to have their role subordinate to the queen CEO in it.
You bring up a really interesting point. Who's running the show? And I think that's the collective brilliance of an ant colony. And we're talking about structures that do have thousands, even 500,000 individuals distributed in a colony having to work together. It does sound like a large corporation. And they have interesting applications. And I think now in particular, when there's been this sudden change in the economics and also funding cycles for science, for example, where things are changing. The landscape is changing, new tariffs and so forth, especially in the US. And there are so many examples. Let's just start off. Let's take a show like Succession. It's a TV show where the whole story is driven by a power struggle over who takes over the empire, the colony. When the boss goes down, there's endless plotting, sabotage, backstabbing, and panic every time Logan Roy falls ill. Now compare that to ants. Now in the ants we study, if the queen dies, there's no meltdown, there's no corporate coup. They've already prepared multiple successors, workers who can activate their reproductive queenness at a moment's notice. The point is the colony doesn't stop or mourn or tear itself apart. It just keeps running. The brilliance is a model of calm, a model of leadership transition, but it's done in many parts not by a single leader. There is no CEO boss simply telling everyone what to do. They're given the power, the individuals, to make decisions close to the problem, to make decisions that are best for the colony. And we have a lot to learn from that.
Interesting. So it's sort of like a flat organizational structure in a way.
Yes, they've empowered those close to the problem to make decisions. And it impacts almost everything. Now, what we want, in a sense, is resilience or stability. We all love stability. We want a company to last a long time. We want cities to last a long time. And you could get excited by ants and go, oh my gosh, it's all about efficiency. They have this incredible division of labor. They have these foragers. They have the nurse. They have a queen. But you're missing the point if you see that. So imagine, for example, if you're standing in the middle of a forest that's burning right now in like Canada, and it's burned over. The fire had destroyed everything above ground, but underground, there's ant colonies, and they're reorganizing. Within hours, they can shift roles based on the needs of the colony, from nurse to forager, from any aspect. There's no panic. There's no CEO barking orders. But somehow, they can make those decisions. And that is, I think, really important. And we can talk about that, how you can, it's not just empowering individuals, but it's how do you make an organization, and it comes down to trust.
Trust. But how did ants deal with complaining? I feel like in every corporation, I myself have been guilty. Like there's the water cooler gossip, there's the complaining, oh, I don't want to do that. Why do the ants just sort of know their role and do it?
I think it really comes down to trust in their colleagues, in a sense. In ants, let's just learn a little biology about ants. So we discussed this last time, but we talk about how ants, when they forage for food, they bring it back to the nest to feed the social stomach, which is the larva. The larva digest the food and they share that. But in that sharing, they share not just food, they're sharing hormones, enzymes, and a bit of their immune system, mouth to mouth or larva to adult.
If I try to do that in the workplace, Brian, I'm probably going to get fired.
Well, you could probably try it at home with your family member, but yeah, don't try it in your work. But it's a physiological trust building. This is the ant case where they're literally mixing themselves into one another. And in social networks, that creates commitment. So now let's take that to a corporation where I think the lesson is clear. when you share purpose and share credit and share equal resources, you can build a corporation, a social structure that sticks together and sticks together when it's under stress. And that's the important point. Stress. It could be higher tariffs. It could be loss of a key person in the chain of work. It could be a fire. It could be a hurricane. These things are what's happening, and you can't do it without trust.
Is that your hypothesis here, that key element of trust is something we could learn in corporations to mirror ant colony structures?
Yes, that's the hypothesis. But we do know that that's a real biological phenomena, that evolution of trust. And trust means commitment. There's a level of commitment. And there's a big area of study around that beyond ants. It's called the evolution of individuality. And you can take that from a perspective of cell, an individual cell that combines with another living organelle. Our cells have another one called mitochondria that's embedded in it. Once it becomes inside of it, to work together, there has to be a commitment of chemical pathways, and that commitment is also trust. And that is interesting for ants because they're distributed individuals. It's not a single individual. They have to do it through other mechanisms, but that commitment and trust has to be there or the system doesn't work. So a corporation cannot persist unless you have many things that happen, but one of the essential elements would be trust.
Well, what of bad actors? For example, if you think of my body, like all the cells maybe in some sense trusting each other and working towards a goal and not complaining. What if a carcinogenic cell emerges and the body kind of trusts it, but it's a bad actor? Is there a similar analogy in the ant world where this trust actually burns them? And if so, how best to deal with it? And is there something we could learn about bad actors in corporations who we trust?
Yes, there are bad actors in any social system because there are ways to break into the trust network. And there has to be systems to deal with that. And we can give examples in ants and right now just talk out loud about how that could apply to human corporations. But for example, one example is where a different species breaks the code to enter an ant colony. Ants have a recognition of individuality, the colony, by smell. So there are other insects that can quickly, and other ant species that can quickly adapt that smell, break in and start eating the larva and even kill the queen and take over the colony. And those systems can happen. And there is a coevolution of an arms race against that. Another example is a fungus that actually infects the individuals in the colony, and they start acting strange. They actually are serving the fungus.
Cordyceps, I believe, is the fungus.
Exactly, cordyceps. So your favorite worker next to you every day is Sally, and all of a sudden Sally starts acting different. And you're like, Sally, what's up? You're kind of acting different. And Sally wants to not live underground anymore because she's about to fruit fungal bodies. So she wants to run out and climb a tree where she's never done before and have those fungal bodies exude everywhere. So cordyceps is an example and sneaky ones where you have to actually clean the system, and there are ants that are looking out for those sneakers and for those ill ants.
What could we do if our corporation had something like that?
Well, I think we have to be evaluating those trust networks and to see if they are functioning. And that's really important. When they don't function, that's the friction. But you have to empower the individuals to make those local decisions.
Dr. Brian Fisher is a curator of entomology at the California Academy of Sciences. Brian, what a pleasure it is talking to you. Thanks for coming back to the show.
Thank you.
After the break, what does living with severe OCD actually feel like, beyond the stereotypes? We'll speak to someone who has lived within the mental health system, navigated the orderlies, navigated the doctors, to have a frank discussion of obsessive-compulsive disorder and the hold it can take on your life. It's important to have raw, real conversations like this, and I look forward to you being with us while we have one in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting from the neutral zone. where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
What does living with severe OCD actually feel like? Beyond stereotypes, beyond punchlines, well, author Léa Taranto is here to talk about her novel, A Drop in the Ocean. That's available wherever books are sold, which looks at just that, living with OCD. She joins me for a raw look at teen mental illness, drawn from her own time inside the mental health system. Léa, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Before we start, I feel like a lot of people throw around the phrase OCD. Oh, I was feeling so OCD today. And I don't do that. I kind of don't like it. But I'm not sure half the people who throw around the term know what an actual definition for the disorder is. So do you want to give me one?
Yeah. So OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think a really cool analogy is that of a mosquito bite. So the obsession is the itch. And the way that you relieve the itch is by scratching. And that is the action that we call compulsion or ritual. And sometimes that action isn't even an action. It can be like if you have like maybe the obsession is a bad thought, then your compulsion might be thinking a good thought to counteract it. And it relieves the itch in the short term, but in the long run, it really reinforces the power of it.
And with that power being reinforced, it becomes the repetition of it. And just like that, it's something that can take up a lot of time and consume you in some cases.
Oh, definitely. Like it can take many hours of a day. I think that a lot of people, kind of have the stereotype of like hand washing, and that's definitely like a form of OCD, like one of the themes, contamination, but that's like just the tip of the OCD iceberg. A lot of the time, OCD goes after your values, and so everyone has different values, different things that matter to them, so it really manifests in all sorts of ways.
Well, let's talk about this book that draws from personal experience. What can you tell us what it was like to visit something like OCD, something you suffer from through fiction? And why have you chosen to do that now?
When I was in psych care, I did a lot of writing in my journal because that was one of the only things I really had like agency and power in my life. Like, people and places change. Maybe you get sent to a different facility. The patients that you're friends with leave. Don't really have a say in your medications or what you eat, but like I could write, nurse so-and-so in my journal. And so I found that I looked back over my old journals and used that as material for an autofiction story, which has most of the things happened, but some of the characters are maybe composites. And the OCD is all very true to my life.
Nurse so-and-so, we're not a fan of her, are we?
No, I had a nurse that I hated so much. I thought at the time that was like a really, really bad ass swear word. And so her name was for a long time.
She sounds delightful. Not really. Let's talk about the book. You've got a young teenager who's got sort of like religious compulsions that she ties to a family member's safety. Is this common that your compulsions get tied kind of maybe superstitiously? Maybe that's not the right word, but to other people's safety?
I think because it is like, in my case, the values part was, the person I loved most was my mom. And because I had been raised quite strictly Christian by my papa and maternal grandma, I was very afraid of sins I'd committed in the past and needing to atone for them. And if not, God punishing my family by basically killing my mom. And it sounds absurd, but it was kind of what I was immersed in. And I think because I was so afraid of it, even though I knew it was absurd, I was like, no, I have to just do this because on the, even if it's like 99.9% of me was sure that it was, bonkers, the 0.1% was too risky.
I hear that. It's set inside a treatment center. That's a place you've been, of course. I think the psych ward gets a lot of negative stereotypes, but also people just don't understand what goes on there. What is a place like that actually like? What is a place like that like for teenagers?
I think that it's kind of, I guess maybe different places are different in how the maybe style a day, but like there's generally like you wake up, you take your meds. Where I went, there was a school building. So we would go to school and have like basically a normal quote unquote time of like morning classes and then lunch and then afternoon classes. But there's a lot of, I guess, the interpersonal elements, like the different kind of patients around you also, I think, shape kind of how your day goes, and like whether it's fun, whether, it's scary. Yeah.
What are some of the staff that work there like? Like, is there the doctor? There's the nurses. I mean, I'm just picturing the orderlies chasing after the patient like we've seen portrayed on television, and I'm certain that can't be right.
I mean, folks do run away sometimes. I've done that in the past. But I think most of the time, everybody there's maybe more MHTs, and they're not like, in uniforms. I wasn't in a uniform, or like, whatever kind of psych ward pajamas. You just have on your regular clothes, if I'm thinking kind of going by some of the places I was at. And you have people called MHTs, sometimes mental health technicians. And that would maybe be like the orderly, like somebody who isn't a nurse, and isn't a doctor, but has training and like kind of just helps you go about your day. And then there's therapy, and that would be with doctors, but they don't really like stay on the unit. Like you would go maybe to an office building for therapy, and then there'd be group therapy, and lots of, like, depending on your privilege level, maybe outings.
Group therapy, are you paired with people that are similar to you, people that are much worse than you? Like what does a group therapy session look like?
Oh, I think that's tricky because maybe different like facilities would do it differently, but like I'm thinking of if you're on a ward that maybe like everybody has different diagnoses, but like it's more the severity, like maybe that would be like a way of scaling it back. And like maybe like there's more of a ward where you're like short term and your problems are or your neurodivergence and like mental illnesses are I guess not presenting as seriously, then that would be maybe those folks would all be like in group therapy. And if you have more severe cases and like maybe you're on more of a hardcore kind of like monitoring ward, then you would all do group therapy together too.
One thing that people also maybe don't know is that OCD often doesn't just happen alone. It can be paired with things like anxiety, depression. You write about it being paired with anorexia. What do people get wrong about kind of a complex tapestry that can be associated with OCD? It's not just the disorder in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that like so many folks have comorbidities. It's not, like maybe on TV we see like, oh, this character has autism, or oh, this person has depression. It's like there's often a lot of different conditions going on all at once, and they can really feed off each other and compound and make each other worse. Or I guess, maybe there's also chronic health concerns that are like physical kind of diagnoses people have along with their kind of mental illnesses and neurodivergences.
In the way you speak, the way you write, it doesn't seem like you sanitize mental illness to me. You tell the story messy, ugly, personal. I think that's brave. And why do you think it's important not to sugarcoat experiences like this?
Because stigma kills, and people, I think, trying to sanitize it like can downplay the severity of it. And it's not also like the only thing about a person. So I guess I just wanted to portray it realistically.
The book is called A Drop in the Ocean. It is available wherever books are sold. I'm joined by Léa Taranto. She's a Vancouver-based author. Léa, thank you for joining me. I've enjoyed the chat, and hopefully people check out the book and appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me on. I've really liked chatting about OCD and just the book as well.
That's a wrap on the week. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, but you didn't catch the whole evening, or you're going to miss a night of the program, don't worry. You can stream The Last Show on demand as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com. Don't ask me why. And there you can find out details about our podcast, including how to subscribe. We'll catch you on Monday. What a pleasure it was having you here with us.
Well, you've heard me on the radio and you've listened to my podcast. Well, now you can watch me on YouTube for thought-provoking conversation, fearless interviews that you won't get anywhere else. The Ben Mulroney Show every single day. So go to YouTube, subscribe to The Ben Mulroney Show, and never miss an episode.